Why, good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And most of you are right here in Canada. all one of you watching right now. Welcome.
Hi, Doug.
All right, guys, welcome back to Fandom Power. Once again, I'm your host, Wes, and I'm joined here live in the Saw Cave with our producer, co-host extraordinaire, Andy.
Yo.
And out in Halifax, welcome back, Hank.
What's going on?
Well, this is going to be an interesting one because we're just a couple weeks away from the Book of Boba Fett. And I know we keep saying we're not a Star Wars show, but we're going back to the galaxy far, far away very soon.
Not even remotely interested at all. Not even one bit.
No, I know.
I'm going crazy. I mean,
me too.
Haven't we all wanted this since we were 13, 12, however old we were? 10?
Well,
some of us?
Absolutely. And then especially after, do you remember we talked about this before when we were doing the Mandalorian stuff, when the Clone Wars animated series was announced way, way back when? So what, 2000 and early, late 2000s?
That's right.
Do you remember at the same time that they announced a live action Boba Fett project?
Yes. I do.
And I think we kind of presumed that became the Mandalorian. And now we are full circle and coming to the end here of 2021. And we are in fact getting a live action Boba Fett television series in the form of the Book of Boba Fett.
Led by Robert Rodriguez, no less.
Yes. So Mr. Mariachi himself
did so well with his episode on the Mandalorian.
Yes.
Dude.
They just handed them the reins.
Well, you brought up something interesting a little bit earlier this week as we were putting the show together, and you'd said that the episode titles had been released along with the numbering convention for this series, which is a season of 8 episodes. So episodes 1 through 8, though, it looks like may not be titled chapters 1 through 8. They may actually begin at chapter 17.
It certainly seems that way. I don't know if like the source is fairly reliable source. I couldn't quote them right now and give them credit myself, but they've got a pretty reliable track record, and it's sort of an innocuous thing to want to bullshit us about. So it's very interesting to me that if this is one great big Mandalorian tale, again, who is the Mandalorian? And these kinds of questions. So, and some of the titles themselves, whether they're real or not, were very interesting.
By the time we left Din Djarin and all at the end of season 2 of The Mandalorian, we had no less than, if we're going to include Boba, we had no less than what, 5 Mandalorians.
Minimum.
5
that had actually been. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So part of the numbering convention kind of, it informs us as the viewer. If anything, it informs us of where this may be falling into in terms of timeline. I mean, I think we all weren't disillusioned that this is happening concurrently, or at least right after the events of what we saw at the end of The Mandalorian season 2.
Like I said earlier in the week too, it's that Game of Thrones like simultaneous storytelling. It's the chapters run congruent.
They do, and so I kind of feel like this one we got a little bit with the we got into it slightly with the Mandalorian, where we had our first Star Wars flashback, and I think we're gonna get some more of that going into this one, because there's some major plot beats here that are, or I should say storytelling opportunities that, while they've been told in other Star Wars media, we've never gotten a canonical visual account of what happened to Boba Fett after he was ingested by the Sarlacc. And I think that is going to be a major point of exposition, at least in the early bits of the, as Din Djarin had his memories about why he's the way he is. I think we would see something similar going into this.
One of the lines from the trailer, right, is like, "I'm not a bounty hunter."
Right.
And that's him defining himself now.
I sort of had this thought too, like we all assume that because of what the information we know, which is why it's so easy to trick us. But we assume that the wounds that he sustained there in that scene when he lost his armor were from the Sarlacc pit. We assume that the Jawas got his armor from the Sarlacc pit, but it's never implicit. And perhaps the stuff we're seeing in the trailer is his attempt to take over Jabba's at some point in the past 5 years. And maybe that's why the armor doesn't appear pristine anymore, because we're gone back in time before he lost the armor to Cobb Vanth. I mean,
for one,
all
certainly,
these things are possible.
We're going to get into the scarring because there's some great contrast shots that I want to bring up, and we can talk about those when we get to it. But I really did think that, especially now that we've all seen the trailer now. For everybody who's watching, you've seen the trailer, and certainly the buzz on the internet. There's a lot of talk about eyebrows.
A lot of talk about eyebrows.
Yeah, Boba's got mad eyebrows now.
It could be the revert. Instead of he's healed, maybe maybe he's scarred now.
I don't know.
Right?
I don't know.
And they can go any direction with this. Well, this is why it's serious. Yeah.
So as we go into the trailer breakdown, that's kind of where I want to start today. Just a quick sort of preamble here to what's going to happen tonight. We're not actually going to watch the trailer. We've spent enough time poring over it. And we've pulled out a ton of what I consider to be key images that we're going to go over, and we're going to talk about them sort of. And they're out of sequence too, because I think after watching the trailer 6, 7, 8, 10, 15 times, I think what we're seeing here essentially boils down to 3 sequences, or 3 major sequences with a few extra images that may be sort of peppered in there just to get the hype machine rolling. And so in no particular order, there's a dinner party, there's a street fight, and then there's a sequence where they meet another crime boss and get ambushed. And I think that those last 2, they're kind of combined into one. So
yeah, I would say
I've kind of, as we've done with our last trailer breakdown, I've pulled things sort of out of order. So we're not actually going to reflect on these as we see them in the trailer, but more sort of organic to how this conversation, I hope, will flow. So I want to start with this one. This is why I talk about we're going to get a flashback, and
could be.
Hold on, here we got our first comment rolling in here. Hey Eric, what is Eric saying for us tonight? Eric figures chapters 1 to 5 are Clone Wars era, maybe another 5 or 6 up to the Sarlacc, and then the last 6-ish going from the Sarlacc to the end of the Mandalorian. Chapter 17 follows on. That's entirely possible, sir. I can't see. There's no reason why that couldn't happen.
But if you're going to go back that far, there's some characters that definitely need to pop up.
I would agree with that. And we're going to talk about her, them, some people that may be in this trailer as we get into this. I just recently saw Dune. And so when I saw this image come up, my first thought was desert power. Nice. And I think that the Tuskens are going to play heavily into the survival, at least, of Boba Fett, and how he survived the Sarlacc, or at least who looked after him once he got out. Yeah.
Because
we know so much more about them now, and that they're not the animals that we're led to believe.
No, they absolutely are not. We know that they have a very complex society, that culture and language that we didn't understand before.
Like even the gaffy stick is not just a killing tool; it's for cleaning teeth.
Yeah, all these practical things that we just didn't know before, that through the lens of the Mandalorian, as you say, we have a much deeper understanding. So here's and this is a blink and you'll miss it kind of moment here, where we've got these 4 Tuskens, and I'm going to just touch on this quickly because this third one from the left appears quite possibly female. Judging by the slender with the hips. Mm-hmm. But I want to bring your attention to the one in the middle, as it were, the guy second from the left. And I'm going to go out and say that this is a flashback, and I'm going to go a little bit farther, and I'm going to propose that the Tusken second from the left is Boba Fett. And the reason that I say that is as we look at the gaffy sticks, that the way that they're carrying the gaffy sticks, you see that this particular gaffy stick appears to be a lot longer And I look at that. I mean, it could just be the lighting in the frame, but I mean, there's a bit of curvature there.
Mhm.
And we saw, like, back in The Mandalorian, we saw that that custom-made gaffy stick that Tamora Morrison had unleashed on those unwitting stormtroopers.
Yep.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's my guess, is that this is Boba Fett, in fact, in some form of flashback, living his desert nomad life until he was well enough to go it on his own. Yeah.
As
I
far as how
certainly
he got
thought,
out,
right.
there's been a bunch of different things in different media, right?
Yes.
Like, even to the point, there's a fan film out there that speculates on how he got out of the Sarlacc pit.
We've got a couple of legends explanations for that. And so I'm curious to know if what they're going to do in the Book of Boba Fett, if that's going to, is that going to be beholden to any of that, or are they going to completely go in their own direction?
Well, there's actually a little funny tidbit in the Disney Infinity 3.0 game
Yes.
where, on the level with the Sarlacc pit, if you throw droids and whatnot into it, it just pukes them back out.
Interesting.
So Boba wearing his armor, going into it, maybe he got puked back out.
I'd never considered that. But again, we see Jabba's sail barge, detonate sort of in the moment right over top of it. And
Yeah.
I don't know, did anybody else assume that it was killed in the blast?
Maybe.
Do we think that maybe it did die in the blast and that's what allowed
Him to
Boba
escape.
to escape, that he wasn't so far down the gullet that he was able to claw his way back out?
It's possible. But, like, from the rest of the Mandalorian, those crate dragons that went into the Sarlacc holes, those holes are pretty big.
They are.
So
There's so many possibilities.
it is.
Fantastic.
All right. So the last time we saw our, I guess, the main protagonist of this series, he was hanging out at this place at the Bomar Monastery, or colloquially as we all refer to it as Jabba's Palace. It's a nice little shot of the palace here. If you look really close at the bottom of that shot there, coming up towards the front door, we can see that there's somebody on approach to the door. And I kind of wonder if this is sort of the preamble or the precursor to the dinner party,
Could
as
be.
the various parties are starting to arrive.
Or maybe
Yeah,
a
right.
droid going up to say, no, we do not accept your invite.
A little
That's
verisimilitude.
entirely, entirely possible.
Because it definitely looks like a little track behind him. Like almost a R2-ish track.
So it could be a droid, or it could be like a dust plume, like a speeder would leave.
True.
But again, when you watch this, when it's moving, that figure or whatever it is not moving very fast. So
No.
it could just be a person. Maybe someone's dragging something. I don't know.
Could be.
Is it really that important? I don't know. Are we overthinking this? I don't know.
What color
Well,
brown is
once
that?
the series is out.
So the reason I brought this up is we got to talk about some history here, because we know that the time of the Mandalorian were 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
Yep.
Mhm.
5 years after Return of the Jedi, and it's like Jabba's been dead for a while. We know that Bib Fortuna had become slovenly in his reign, but there's also some talk, particularly in Chuck Wendig's book Aftermath, that not everybody hung around the palace once he died. Like, a lot of people just took off.
This is my
Right.
chance. I'm leaving.
Yeah. Clearly, Bib Fortuna hung around and kind of kept it. I won't say that he kept things together, because that shot of at the end of the Mandalorian when Boba walks in, and there's
Pretty
really
sparse.
there's nobody there to stop him or even question him. They just
Right.
kind of waltz right in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the band is gone.
Absolutely. One of the last people to leave was this guy, was Malik Keeley, and of course we know him as the Rancor Keeper from Return of the Jedi.
Mhm.
But he had hung around for quite a long time, apparently waiting for a new Hutt to show up. And going to talk about that Wendig novel just a little bit more.
Yeah.
In that novel. Now, Hank, you've read it, right?
Yep.
You want to take us through how they tried to install a new Hutt and that didn't work?
Well, I mean, just in a nutshell, I don't want to get too deep into it, but there's a ploy to install a new Huttling, and essentially Cobb Vanth and with the help of Malakili, they foil the plot. They don't want Hutz back in charge. It's not like it alternates through chapters, so there's a little bit here and a little bit there. It's not like the main narrative.
No.
But the relationship between Cobb Vanth and Malakili lasts all three novels. They become, he's almost like to the point where it's surprising that he's not present in The Mandalorian, because he's
Interesting.
He doesn't die. They leave him fully alive. And
do we think that he could be, as the dinner party would suggest, that Boba Fett is trying to put back the organization that once was? Do you think there's a chance that as he's reassembling the court, that he may come back?
Yeah, and I think maybe, and this, yes, and I think that's why we didn't see him in The Mandalorian, even though we got to see the Cobb Vanth, which is that proximity. And it actually makes sense now why we got a Moochie episode in the past, because I think we're going to see Moochie in live action. I really do.
One of the lines from Fennec Shand in the trailer is, if you'd spoke to Jabba like that, he would have fed you to his menagerie. And
right.
That's really
More
suggestive
than
because
one.
right, we've only
a collection.
seen, for those of you who haven't been watching The Bad Batch, you know that Jabba had a Rancor, but we now know that there was at least two of them. So what?
And really, why would he stick around 5 years unless there was another Rancor to take care of?
Well, this is it too,
Like
right?
the emotional attachment he showed to the first one, that would totally carry over to the next one.
I think so as well.
And if you're like us and you do a little deeper dig, Moochie was female. Patessa, the one from the movies, although there was quite a bit of controversy on Facebook there at the time, is male. So I mean, a Rancor keeper, not a stretch to be a Rancor breeder.
I was going to say, is there
very cool things could be coming up here? Very cool things. Yeah.
Could we be farming them?
Maybe.
Hey.
I think the idea
Awesome.
as a location now, the number of times that we've been to Tatooine in Star Wars, I mean, there's the old joke, we're going back to Tatooine, but at least in the television properties, it seems like when we go back to these places, we visit them in a way that we've never seen before. 100%. So we got to see an outpost in The Mandalorian, and now I think we're actually going to explore. Even in the trailer, we get to see other areas of the palace that we've never seen before.
Yeah, exactly.
And I find that to be interesting. So I mean, we knew that the Rancor was kept underneath. The question is, what else is under there?
In my head, Tatooine was always. In my head, Tatooine was always like an Earth-sized planet. So there's a lot of things going on Earth. Like three of us will never see everything. And so, and I thought it was maybe a failing of some of the other movies. Not that, I'm not a naysayer necessarily, but that the times we visited desert worlds, it seemed, why wouldn't it have been Tatooine? I know you want a larger galaxy, but like, experiencing it wouldn't have changed stories really at all. Like if some of the other desert world stuff was on that desert world, it might have even made it more resonant. So when we explore them and like, I want to see more places on these familiar worlds. I'm not, I like new stuff too. Yeah, absolutely. But I'm super interested in seeing what might be the capital city of Tatooine.
We've talked about the rhyming stanzas nature of Star Wars and its cyclical nature, and I made a list of all the desert planets that we've been to, cinematically at least, and there's 5.
Right,
there's
1
only
in 3.
5.
it's 1 in 3.
Tatooine, Geonosis, Jeddah, Jakku, and Pasana. Those are really the only desert locations we've really visited in live action.
Right, everything else has trees. Or fire.
I was going to say you could make an argument, and I don't remember the name of the planet that the Bendu was living on during the time of Rebels. You could make an argument that that's also one.
Yeah, Lothal after what the Empire did, Lothal's pretty barren.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one of the things about the question I had was what else could be under the palace, and that kind of brings us up to the next sort of thing that we get, and this is sort of the opening shot of the trailer itself, as we get this little spider-like droid creature, and of course we've seen these before. And again, this is another deep dive for those of you who are not versed in the lore here. Is that the palace actually was a monastery. Used to be a monastery for an order of monks, the Bomar order. And so the thing with the Bomar, we've seen them before, by the way. I'm just gonna flash that up here for a second. We saw them back in Return of the Jedi when C-3PO was coming through the front door of the palace. Now the deal with the Bomar is this particular religious order, they believe in enhancing the power of the mind through isolation from all physical contact, to the point where they have actually removed their own brains from their bodies and placed them in that little nutrient tank that's hanging on the underside of the droid. And the droids are basically a conveyance to move them around if they want to go somewhere else.
Right.
But this particular shot doesn't really give a scale as to the size of them.
No, not really.
But when you flip back to the
Jedi one,
go down the next one.
The next one, yep. That's some forced perspective for you, though. I get the
there
impression that this one is quite small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you go to
Very
the
standard
highlight
size.
one for Jedi,
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So we go to
compare
this one.
against 3PO, and that thing's huge.
It's massive.
Very
I mean,
big.
there's some talk, sort of some of the literature surrounding these guys says that this one in the Return of the Jedi shot is an older 4-legged model, and that what we're seeing here is perhaps a newer 6-legged model.
Right. Fewer legs the older they get. So in Legends, it's very interesting that they talk about this was also one of sort of the Jabba's favorite ways to torture his enemies, was to turn them into these creatures. So, and I don't know whether that was before the canon version of the Bomar monk came out, but it was, it was implied that the creatures that were crawling around Jabba's palace weren't actually Bomar monks, but that were his versions of that.
That's interesting.
And in fact, Bib Fortuna in Legends comics meets his end this way, not at the hands of Boba Fett. So he actually. Another
Darius, go ahead, Hank.
Oh, just I was just going to say, I've been we're off again. I've been rewatching Voyager lately, and the race, the Bomar.
Yeah.
Probably just a nod to what they figured was an obscure thing that's being brought right to the front of the surface now. So,
want to say hey to Darius Stone, who's watching on Twitch. By the way, guys, we are now live on Twitch TV.
Yep.
Lads, I assume that you're as well into Star Wars and that, but have you seen that bare old film, The Searchers, that they've based bits of it on? Darius, no, I have not. I assume that as a Star Wars fan, there's some meat in there for us to dig into, and I'd love to check that out. So that's one for me to look up. I don't know, but what about you guys? Have you seen it?
I have not.
No.
The Searchers.
Okay, well, have to look for that one. The Searchers. Thank you for the comment, Darius.
Yeah, man.
All right. So yeah, with the Bomar thing, now here's an interesting thing. I want to keep stick with the Bomar here for a second, because it comes up in our next sort of sequence here, and I'm going to move ahead to that one now as we get going here. When we meet, we see Boba Fett again after the shot of the monks. We see this what I assume is some form of droid servant here is handing him off his helmet, and we get it sort of in this room here, which I assume is the top of the palace. We saw that it's almost like a bedroom, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where we get into that Boba Fett's got mad eyebrows, and with his mad eyebrows, there's been some talk, especially online chatter about what's going on here, and back to tanks seems to keep coming up quite a bit.
Well, it's probably not a tanning bed.
Well, I presume obviously there's some kind of pod in the room with him. Is it a back to tank? I don't know. It could be. Mind you, I mean the accepted style for back to tanks tends to be something like this.
Mm-hmm.
What we saw in The Empire Strikes Back, which I don't know. I mean, it could be a smaller back to tank.
Well, that would have been a rebellion back to tank.
A lot, or stolen,
Jabba's,
maybe stolen from the Empire or something.
True. But like the ring on the end of that is similar.
It does have a similar aesthetic, I guess. Yeah, to the top of that tank. I wanted to touch a little bit more on the palace, and we talked about what's underneath the palace. And there's a little canon nugget that may explain sort of what's going on here in terms of Boba's health. Because like when we see him in the Mandalorian, I mean, there is a stark contrast to the amount of scarring that's going on there. Now, mind you, the scarring is still on him, but it's much more
Reduced.
faded, and of course, he's got a much healthier looking skin tone.
Yeah.
We got another comment. Oh, Darius, the attack on Luke's house is a shot-for-shot recreation, and when young Vader is running about chopping up people in the desert too. Okay, that's great to know. We'll definitely look for that. Thank you very much. All right, so going back to the Bomar monks for a second here, there's a little canon nugget here. Back in 2015, after Disney bought Lucasfilm, there was a little book here put out, Star Wars Complete Locations, and in the reference in the entry for Jabba's palace, it talks about the Bomar, and that during the time of Jabba's rule, that they were in possession of what they called several healing gems. I don't think we've ever seen those before.
Mm-mm.
Maybe a cousin of the Kyber crystal.
Right.
Presumably, Jabba would have known that they were there.
You would think so.
Do you think that the rest of the court would have known? And when do you think the palace was ransacked like after he was dead?
Quite possibly.
We sort of thought, Bib stepped into the power vacuum and just assumed control. But as we were talking about it this morning today, just a few minutes ago, actually, wow, that the palace was empty except for a couple Gamor and Bib. But maybe he was just stepped into the empty palace and sat on a familiar seat, but had no actual,
I think that's way
Boba was
more
like, I'm going to reestablish
likely.
my seat of power by, symbolically taking Jabba's seat. Thanks for keeping it warm for me, but in no actual way was there any power ever wielded by Bib Fortuna.
I don't believe for 2 seconds that Bib Fortuna had the fortitude or the resolve to keep any of Jabba's empire together, let alone rule it.
Right.
Not for a second.
Yeah. No, he was a weak-minded fool.
Yes.
I mean,
in Huttese.
We're going to see Hutts in this 8 episodes. Like, I can't see them leaving that throne vacant, that power vacuum. They're not going to want it filled by anybody else. We're about to head into a crime show, and they are a crime family, and they are the preeminent crime family. We're going to butt heads with Hutts.
It's called Hutt Space, right? They're in Hutt Space.
Tatooine is technically in the Outer Rim. It's not really in Hutt Space. It's on the edge of Hutt Space. Oh shit! I had a thought and it's gone now.
Sorry.
I was going to say with the show being sort of in that same time frame as The Mandalorian and Ahsoka, we're talking about that 5 years after. With the Wendig novels already establishing that the Hutts have tried to install one of their own. Why the 5-year gap? Like, I guess the biggest question is, within that 5-year gap, where are we? Has that happened yet? Are we going to see that happen?
Right. And Filoni said, we really don't know. And I just proposed just before we started recording, maybe what we're seeing, maybe he's healed because he hasn't been scarred yet. Maybe we're seeing things out of order here. Like
maybe
Star Wars is crafty, boys.
So kind of I don't even know if you can call this a callback or not. The droid that's handing him the helmet is very reminiscent of what I think, could be some variation on the pit droid. Whether that's actually the case.
A little pop-up droid.
So yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with the word is out. I'm not going to rule that is or is not a back to tank. You know what? The likelihood is it probably is because it's an easy one. It's a lot easier to explain than magical healing gems.
Yeah, and at the same time, right? Jabba would not want one vertical, So if he had his own private
No,
one,
you're right. I
his
mean,
bedchamber,
given the size and his stature, he wouldn't be able to.
yeah, he'd need to slither into it.
No, absolutely,
So
that totally makes
the
sense.
horizontal one would be more fit for him.
We talk about the power vacuum here for a second, and sort of the idea of, you know, Bib Fortuna just walking in and literally sitting on a chair, and particularly we're talking about this chair.
Mm.
Now, this is the throne that we saw at the end of The Mandalorian that Bib Fortuna was sitting on. It is the same throne that we see, you know, Boba and Fennec walk in and just, you know, unceremoniously execute Bib Fortuna, throw him down on the floor,
remove him from power.
right, and he takes his place. The internet went kind of crazy on this one. Like, what does that chair actually say?
Right.
And finally, we have an answer for that. Found out that it's actually written in what's called Urkitat, or what is the old tongue. And the cool thing about this, or maybe it's the thing, is that Urkitat is actually the spoken language of the Sith and the Sith eternal cult. But
The Sith language,
expressed in a runic form. Now here's the interesting part. The actual script on the back of that chair, it's the same words and they're mirrored. So you can see that the symbols are the same in one direction as they are in the other.
Mhm.
And it says Boba Fett.
Right. Which
So
led. I remember we talked briefly about this, and maybe it wasn't even on the show. Maybe it was off air. And Lauren seems to think that it might have been, I might have talked with her about it. But I remember translating that to Boba Fett and thinking and speculating that was Boba retaking the throne from Bib. Like he had been there already. Because Jabba doesn't sit in that chair. That chair is not present. Not in my place.
I don't know if I don't even know if that
Jabba wouldn't fit in that.
You don't really get a sense of it in this image, but I thought that when we see Bib Fortuna sitting on it, it almost appeared like that chair, that throne, had been placed on the dais that Jabba used to lay on. Yeah,
agreed. And I mean those little the heads, the hounds or whatever they are on the arms. Those
Rancor
are the things
heads
that are present on the toy.
Yes,
the actual, right. So that's like an homage to the toy. And I had a problem with that. Not a problem, but it made me very curious. Like, why would the chair say Boba Fett? Star Wars doesn't make accidents like that. And so Dave Filoni is like, you can never tell when we are now that, right?
This brings up and of course this just it sends your mind kind of spinning,
because
now you're like, wait a minute, you're telling me that Boba Fett had his own throne in Jabba's palace? What kind of relationship did those two guys have?
5 years is a long time. Like, we don't know how, if he was in, like you say, if that Sarlacc is killed by that explosion, he's only in the Sarlacc pit 5 minutes.
That's what I mean.
How the Jawas get his armor could be a different tale altogether. Perhaps he didn't lose, there's so much here. I'm a little leery because by giving us too much, they ruined one of my favorite characters in sort of in fandom, which is Wolverine, the X-Man character. And we know too much about him now. And the beauty of that character, which is what the beauty of Boba Fett is that we didn't know anything. And everything was headcanon. And I almost want them to tell these stories, but leave us the wiggle room for the headcanon. I want them to show us new stuff and let the old stuff almost lie. I mean, there's a few. Certainly, we all want to see the exact way he got out of the Sarlacc pit, but I don't want to know what his 16th birthday was like. You know what I mean?
No.
I mean,
if
there's
you showed
a lot
me
of stuff in the comics,
the
War of the Bounty Hunters.
Oh my God,
there's a lot going on right now with the character.
If you gave me a flashback scene where, let's say, and this is just, again, talk about headcanon, and this is what we love to do on our show, speculate the crap out of something. But if you gave me a scene of the katana, the wreckage of the katana, and the heroes of the rebellion have just floated away, and then a short time later, the sandcrawler rolls up, it starts scavenging the crap out of the sail barge. Boba hauls himself out of the Sarlacc, falls unconscious, and then sand people show up to drive them off.
Yeah.
and then we get that shot of them walking through the desert. That's all I need.
I just was thinking now one of them does the crate dragon call to scare off the
Yeah,
Jawas, just
yeah,
like
yeah,
Obi-Wan. Yeah.
Well, especially now that
Wow.
they've killed one.
At the same time, though, in the Mandalorian, right, we saw them strip the Razor Crest.
That's what I mean.
So what's if he falls unconscious? What's to stop
They
them from just
strip
snag the arm,
snagging his
strip it
armor
right
and
off
off
of
they
him.
go.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
They thought he was dead.
Yeah.
You know,
Left
I
him
do
for
think
dead. Because he says that
I think
left
that,
in the, like about Fennec Shand. She was left in
Fennec
the
Shand,
desert
yeah.
to die like I was.
Right. And
Right.
so, yeah, that's cool. I mean, maybe we've just put a pin in that one. I want to come back to that after we've seen the first episode so we can either yay or nay that one. All right. So I think, again, those first few shots that we've just looked at, the monastery, I think there's going to be a flashback. We've got some establishing shots to let us know that Boba has moved in. He's officially a resident of the Bamar Monastery on Tatooine. And then we get the classic, because you got to have at least one. We get a good flyby here of Slave One. This could be anywhere. I don't think this is on Tatooine. I don't think this is on a desert world. There appears to be some water down there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm having a hard time kind of pinning this down to the whens and the wheres, but it's still a cool shot nonetheless, because who does not like to see more of Slave One in action?
Yep.
Excellent.
And we get this, I'm calling it an unnamed city because I can't really, it's hard to tell. It could be the same planet that we just saw Slave One on the flyby.
That's right.
But when I saw this shot, immediately my brain just started spinning like, where is this? What is this? And I'm not going to lie that the crater, the idea of this city in a crater gave me visions of this,
Jeddah.
of Jeddah City.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jeddah City was built on top of like a huge natural rock formation, but we know that in the wake of the Death Star,
it is no longer there.
Well, that's what I mean. Now, how deep a crater does a single reactor ignition make?
Right. Well, the wave, the tidal wave of Earth in that scene
and debris
blotted out the sun in that system. Like,
yeah.
So I have a theory about this. It goes a couple ways. The city. So I just stumbled upon Googling things going around the world and stuff, and the city of Bastille, in the original George Lucas novel, is the capital city of Tatooine.
Tatooine, right?
And we've never been there, and we've only been to a spaceport, which is Mos Eisley, which is a modest city. Got a little facelift for the re-releases, made it a little bigger. Mos Espa was even bigger, and I found, but I couldn't find the actual images. I was looking, but I ran out of time because I just found this information maybe 10 minutes before we went on. Apparently there's Mos Espa in the concept drawings by was it Chang? Robert?
Doug Chang.
Doug Chang.
Doug Chang. Yep.
That Mos Espa was in a crater with a big central spire.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that
is that what the Colosseum was built into that? Maybe.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, I remember seeing it, and I was trying to look it up, but I couldn't find it quick enough. But I remember seeing concept art of Mos Espa being a city in a crater, a giant city in a crater. So maybe they took that idea and the idea of Bastille. I'm gonna say that's Bastille, the capital city of Tatooine. I'm gonna put my money on that one right now.
No matter what it turns out to be, I am super looking forward to seeing or to knowing what this place is. I mean, it looks like a major set piece. I want to know what it is. Comment from Eric: not Slave One anymore, boss. Dun dun dun.
We'll see. We'll see about that.
Is it or isn't it? We can say for sure that it's not Slave One anymore on a Lego set.
No. Right. But
that
is appropriate for children. That's fine with me.
That does not speak to all Star Wars media, and it certainly doesn't speak. There's an official. Now, I just saw this online the other day. There's a shooting model of Slave One in a museum somewhere, and it's still called Slave One. So, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the judgment on that is still out. I'm not going to say one way or another, but definitely on that Lego set, Boba Fett's starship.
I have heard that they want to rename it to like in lieu of that, to the class of ship it was, and it's like a Firefly class ship or something.
So the class of ship is the Fire Spray 31
Fire Spray.
patrol craft.
That's
Now
it. Fire Spray.
that goes as far back as the Star Wars Bounty Hunter video game,
Right.
when Django actually steals the ship from a Republic prison, essentially. Steals it.
Liberates it.
Yeah. You know what? And here's the thing. This is not what we're here to talk about, but I'm going to talk about it because you brought it up, and it gets me going. If they want to change the name of Slave One to something else, I don't have a problem with that. But you got to give me an in-story reason to do it. You can't just, say it's not Slave One anymore, and it's not because
he's a crime lord.
Absolutely.
He doesn't care what you think of his name, ship name.
Maybe it's now Crime One.
Crime One.
I don't know. Jabba Zero.
There you go.
All right. Fair play. People have a hard time removing their fiction from their feelings. That is absolutely true. We wouldn't do that on our show, would we?
I don't know. Well, they stopped making slave Leia figures.
That is also true. That is also true. Okay. So we're going to take a look at this shot one more time with our unnamed city, possibly Bestine, possibly somewhere else. The idea of it being Jeddah City, but rebuilt, man, that's a lot of expansion. That's a lot of expansion in that amount of time.
Yeah. Anybody zoom in on that ship in the top background there, the very top there?
That is a fantastic question. I'm glad that you asked that because
we got a Razor Crest to me.
We got a couple things going on here, and I would be remiss to say that does that not look like the Razor Crest or
right.
Razor silhouette at any rate,
or a Razor Crest at least? Because I mean, if we're chronological, Razor Crest just was destroyed, but
that is absolutely true.
Walks like a duck, talks like a duck. Again, everything out of order. I don't know, man. Awesome,
Got a comment from YouTube from Caleb Richardson. Thank you for joining us. Caleb says, wait, I thought the name change was just for the toys. And Caleb,
me too.
I would say that I agree with you. That's what I thought as well. Slave One is maybe not an appropriate term in 2021 for children, but for those of us, that are a little older, I think that we can understand that the fiction is fiction. And
is that because we were older when we were kids?
I don't know. I think that the social norms of when we were kids are not what they are now, and I don't want to say cancel culture. I don't like the term, but
times
get out of here with that term.
Social climate. We got something else here in the shot that looks, I don't know, it looks like maybe it's a bulk freighter. I'm not sure what that is. Possibly. But it does bear some. Excuse me. It does bear some similarity to the old Jedi bus on Coruscant to some degree. All right.
Maybe it's a repurposed one.
Who knows? All right. So then we get into, now that we've got our big set piece, we're going to visit some city. We've essentially got this, what I call the meeting of the crime boss, where we're going to get to that Ithorian that we saw in the trailer. I've tried to arrange this next sort of group of shots in order as I think they happen, because I think it's one continuous piece where we have Boba and Fennec have now landed in the city, and they're making their way to this particular building. And then I think here we are getting inside. Notice that there's a couple of Gamorrean guards in this shot that are escorting them in. So my big question here was, especially on the first time around, did some of the Gamorrean guards stay at the palace?
Well, they need work.
And so let's presume for a second that they did. Did Boba and Fennec actually bring a pair of Gamorrean guards with them as muscle as bodyguards?
That's the impression I kind of got. Yeah, they're standing behind them in the scene with shields as well.
We see the Gamorrean guards and the Mandalorian, and they're part of that fight club, that underground fight club.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't want to stereotyping here, but I mean, are Gamorreans only suited for very particular work?
Haven't seen one be a Jedi yet.
We have not seen one be a Jedi yet. That is true.
Maybe there's a future storyline.
Caleb, follow up. I'm fine with not marketing the word slave to kids, but Disney should realize just getting rid of the word from everything in the Star Wars doesn't work when your most famous character was a slave. And that, sir, is incredibly true. Of course, Anakin Skywalker himself, right?
Who rose from a slave to become a Jedi and
So true.
balanced the Force eventually.
Thank you for that comment. That's very well spoken, sir. So yeah, we get into we start getting into this building here, and pay particular attention to the architecture here on the walls, because I think that this is the front end of the building that these two Twi'lek ladies are hanging out in, our cantina shot, because every Star Wars property has got to have a cantina shot.
Yep.
So this is our cantina shot, and there's a few things going on in here. On the left-hand side of the screen, there's been a lot of people going nuts, thinking that that's a robed Obi-Wan Kenobi walking across the shot from left to right.
Time-wise, it does not.
It just does not add up at this point. No, I'm sorry, it does not.
No.
So I'm going to go out and refute that right now. This is not Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is definitely posthumously for him. And then the big one is staring right at you in the face. The more Caucasian toned Twi'lek is none other than Jennifer Beals herself from Flashdance.
What a feeling.
And in case, yeah, nice. And in case you're wondering if you're doubting that, from her own Twitter feed, so honored to be part of the Star Wars family. The little kid in me is jumping up and down. I think we are too. And if we don't get a dance number out of her in this this show, I will be sorely disappointed.
Right.
All right.
Well, they're renowned for their dancing.
Absolutely. That's how they were talking about slaves. Another example, that's how they were introduced to us in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
I have jokes I can't say on air.
Save them for the after show. You want to talk a little bit about the other thing going on here, Hank, that you've got some suspicions about? There's this could
be a huge stretch, but there's a character that's been featured prominently in the comics recently, and he's featured heavily, not sort of heavily, but implied heavily, as a sort of a major plot point of Rise of Skywalker, and that's the character Ochi of Bastoon. He's a Sith assassin employed by Palpatine to do all kinds of nasty, dirty work, and we actually get to see him do some of the dirty work in the comics, and it makes his character much, much, much cooler. He's sent to try to, basically pick a fight with Vader. He's a very skilled weapons master. He's a very skilled fighter, and he's got cool Batman-looking armor too.
Yeah, very much.
And the caveat
is he the same species as Maz Kanata?
That's a good question, because they do have some similar appearances.
Right, yes, they do. Yeah, and they don't really get into that. They get into the fact that when you see him in that first image that you showed from Rise of Skywalker, that Vader blinds him, and so those are implants. So he does have eyes, but it's hard to tell in that scene in the cantina or wherever we were with the Twi'lek women. Certainly, there's a lot of similarities going on with what the skin tone is very similar. There's a slit for a mouth when you zoom in on it. There's that kind of weird button eye. Doesn't seem to have the prosthesis on the side of the head, but the reason that
appears to be wearing some kind of cloak, hood anyway.
The sort of reason for his proximity to he's playing very major part of what happens between Empire and Jedi, and is sort of Vader's right-hand man while he's chasing the prize that is Han Solo. It's everybody out there, go and check out War of the Bounty Hunters. It fleshes out what happens between Empire and Jedi with respect to the chase for Han Solo. It involves Kira from the Han Solo movie and the Crimson Dawn. It involves old Marvel bounty hunters from the old Marvel run from the 70s. Boba Fett loses him and gets him back, and loses him, and Vader's one of the people chasing him, and Leia and Kira, and it's a fantastic ride. And we get a lot about Boba Fett there too, which is why we're here today.
There's a lot going on in what you just said. Particularly, let's just focus in here for a second that this show going forward, it's no secret now, this show has been dubbed The Sopranos in Star Wars, right?
Right.
that we were getting some kind of crime show. And we know that, as you say, with what's going on in the comic books right now, is there any surprise that there's a rumor floating around that a Darth Maul centric animated series is in the works that may explore that period of time after the Clone Wars leading up to his death at the hands of Obi-Wan?
Right.
And isn't he a crime boss?
With the
100%.
Crimson Dawn, is he not?
Absolutely. So as it pertains
Shadow
to our
Syndicate.
show, right, as it pertains to Boba Fett, though, like my biggest question, and we talked about this earlier in the week when we were putting the show together, is where is Kira? Where is Kira in all of this? Because could the Book of Boba Fett be the spiritual successor to the Han Solo, the Solo film? I don't know.
You know, Paul Bettany has talked recently about returning to the character of Dryden Voss, and that might seem out of order, but we don't know anything about that species, and certainly it looks like she killed him in that moment. But anything is possible. I mean, he might even return for this Lando Calrissian show that we've been hearing about too, which is another, could tie everything in.
We'll go back to the comments here for a second. Caleb, Jennifer Beals Twi'lek does kind of give me the heebie-jeebies. Just having a human-like skin tone on a Twi'lek is something that we haven't seen before. Have we? Haven't we?
Well, they're usually like greens and extreme pinks.
I can't remember. Ula, she was kind of. I mean, the dancer was an African American lady, but
she was yellowy green, right?
She was
yellowy green. Yeah.
Well, was the other dancer in the room? Was she human?
I think she was Twi'lek too. I believe.
I don't remember.
Was she orange?
I'm talking about remember the big lady.
Oh, the large
remember.
Girl. Yeah.
Was she Twi'lek or human?
I think she was human.
She definitely.
I think she had multiple rows of breasts. I think there was something going on there.
Oh, right.
There's something going on there.
Okay. And a good follow-up comment on that. I wonder if she's a human Twi'lek hybrid.
I like this kid,
Kanan
Caleb.
Harris, his kid. And of course, the obvious one, Bib Fortuna was flesh-colored.
Excellent.
Wow, and we call ourselves experts.
Excellent. I don't even know how to pronounce that guy's name, but that's fantastic.
The Zadrakis, thank you, sir, for that one, because Captain Obvious did not get that one. How many podcast hosts does it take to answer that question?
That's awesome, actually. That's awesome.
All right. If you guys are just joining us now, we get some new people coming into the comment section. That's right. We don't. We just see Twi'leks. If you're joining us now, we are partway through our live breakdown of the Book of Boba Fett trailer that came out earlier this week. There's lots to unpack. We've talked about sort of the origins of where the show might be picking up at and where it might be going. Right now, we're getting into a sequence where Boba has just entered what we think is some sort of cantina where Jennifer Beals may or may not do a dance number, and Ochi of Bestoon might kill somebody.
And the ghost of Obi-Wan appears to have been resurrected.
That's right. All while Obi-Wan is passively observing with a drink.
All manner of things happening here.
All right. So, but in order to get to our crime boss, of course, we've got to get through the. Oh yes, Caleb totally forgot that Bib was a Twi'lek. Yes, we all did. Getting to our crime boss, we get to the back room, and this is kind of cool. Ithorians have featured, quite heavily in Star Wars media over the years.
That's right.
It's nice to see them make a strong comeback here, especially as a crime boss.
And another flesh-toned Twi'lek.
And another flesh-toned Twi'lek, yes. So true. There's some dialogue here, and it's hard to say if the dialogue that's being played over top of this particular scene is actually in this moment, or if it's back at the palace. And I think, Andy, you'd said that, there's a good chance that that's the dialogue between Boba and the Klaatuinian that showed up at the gate that's sitting at the dinner party.
Mm-hmm. But there was also a point there when you're hearing the voiceover, it does sound kind of like Din Djarin.
It does sound like Pedro Pascal. It does. The voice in this scene does kind of sound like Pedro Pascal.
Everybody I've talked to thought that initially. Yes. But
this scene does not play out very well because, as you can tell when you see the next shot here, you you can tell by the background that this is obviously the same room. We're going to get jumped here by a couple of guys.
And I wondered if the background, like the embellishments on the wall, if that's like another form of text that we haven't
Oh,
seen
yeah,
yet.
yeah. You mean behind the Ithorian?
Yeah, because it's like there, it's in the next 2 shots.
It does appear runic in some sense. I certainly can't make any sense of it, but
No.
if anybody out there watching or listening is aware of, if this is another Star Wars language that we haven't touched on yet, drop us a line in the comments, and
There's certainly some
we'll take a closer look at it.
There's certainly repetitions there.
So yeah, we get ambushed here by at least 2 guys, and of course we're going to retaliate. Now here's the thing with the Gamorreans again, and it kind of, these guys look like they're not really part of the fight. The one guy, he's beating.
Yeah, they're kind of scrambling out of there.
So once again, did Fennec and Boba bring these 2 dudes with them, or are these guys working for the Ithorian and they were the escort to bring them in?
Yeah.
I just don't know.
Goons. Hired goons.
That's what I thought. And this is it. Like, I mean, again, we've only seen Gamorreans employed in so many roles in the galaxy.
Nice reference, sir.
It kind of makes,
Thanks.
it kind of makes sense. Makes sense to me that other crime bosses would employ them in a similar fashion.
Yeah, because when you have an entire palace that's now out of work,
Right.
everybody needs to go somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Fighting or just working for other Mandalorians, maybe.
Yeah,
These are the guys left over from the pit fight after they got out of there.
yeah,
Right.
After John Leguizamo's character got fed to the dogs.
Yep. Because at least one of them was alive.
We get a cool little shot here. Looks like Fennec's got some extra tricks up her sleeve, or in this case, up the buttstock of her rifle in the form of, looks like some little kunai style throwing knife.
Wicked.
Which is a cool little touch. And we saw her.
It's a blink and you'll miss it moment.
We saw her martial arts the crap out of Cad Bane in the Bad Batch. So I hope we get to see more of
And
that
Wrecker.
style of fighting.
And
Yes.
Wrecker.
Absolutely.
One shot.
So the whole meeting the crime boss and the ambush, as I say, I feel are kind of one sequence. Now the next group of shots that we're going to take a look at may be, and I can't tell, it's either immediately before or immediately after, I think, in the form of what I call the street fight. And I'm gonna say it's probably after.
I would say after, because after a firefight, you would alert whatever local authorities.
Well, this is it. Here's Gamorrean standing outside the door. They've just left. He's taken off his helmet now, and I don't know if he's just catching his breath or what's going on here. But next thing you know, we get stacked up on by these dudes with these energy shields. And as you pointed out, Andy,
they're all sporting the same uniform.
They are wearing a uniform. It's a good chance that this is local law enforcement.
Yeah. This is very similar to the characters from before. If you go to the other shot that you showed before, the palette is the same and the shoulder flashes are the same.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so the guys with the rifles.
So now they're wearing the high collar there. They both wearing that high collar and shoulder flashes, but the actual shoulder pads underneath that are the same as the shoulder pads that the other guys are wearing in that other scene. If you have a better shot of
the law enforcement dudes,
yeah, so it's the same palette,
different ones.
Oh yeah, no, they actually do have a little variation there, but the palette is the same.
Yeah, the tones are definitely in the same.
Purples and blacks, yeah.
It's an energy weapon they're using too. So
his helmet might Zadrakis, his helmet might be off because it's filled with coins. That's a good point. I do have a shot of that. We're going to talk about that in a second, because the big question is why?
Because those aren't just any coins.
Well, that's just it now. Well, keep in mind, this is going to, so here we go. This will definitely infer. You want to talk about where we are in the timeline? Let's just jump ahead to that right now.
Right. Republic credits won't
do. They are new Republic credits, as they are bearing the emblem of the rebellion, now the emblem of the New Republic. So, why is this helmet full of credits? I don't know what just happened here. Do you?
Maybe he just won a card game.
That's entirely possible.
Or
from the
game of Sabak.
Oh, see now?
See, they keep bringing that one back too.
They do. They really do. But again, this is right in the middle of that street fight, because you can see the energy shields in the background while they're duking it out.
So he's dropped it in order to deal with his assailants.
Clearly. And deal with them he will, because if you remember how ruthless he was with that gaffy stick back in The Mandalorian.
Vicious.
We get a bit of a repeat of that with
Right. It's got that
with
look.
this shot. Now he's clearly disarmed because that's one of the
one of theirs.
one of the cops' weapons. Eric, credits will do. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
nice.
Yes, they will.
I know he's a star now, but I sort of hope that he wears the helmet more than he doesn't.
Yeah. I hear you on that one. Again, does that? I mean, the mystery of the character, right? You want to
I
sort
guess
of
that's
maintain
gone,
that,
right? Yeah.
Well, the Mandalorian creed, don't remove your helmet.
Well,
but I mean,
yeah.
as he's already said, I swear allegiance to no one.
It's one of the problems I
Um,
have with the last 9 Spider-Man movies, and that's it's that Spider-Man spent too much time out of his friggin' mask.
I didn't come to watch a Peter Parker movie,
right? And and they've been hired maybe they need to hire someone real ugly to play Peter Parker, so he leaves the mask on. Sorry, that's just a little digression there.
That's funny. Okay, so the street fight presumably is some sort of mix-up. I presume that after the maybe the minor crime boss is dead and they've mugged him or lifted the credits off his body or something, and now they're making their escape. But
I think it's going to be a quick fight, though.
That cantina, the front of the crime operation, still is filled with normal people who may or may not have alerted our authorities.
You never know. There could be like gambling tables in there.
Well, exactly.
We're only seeing like a small fraction of it. So
I would be surprised if there wasn't. And then we have the other major set piece or the other sequence in this, which I refer to as the dinner party. And that's where a lot of the dialogue for the trailer, the overdub, comes from about, what's to stop us from killing you and taking everything. And the Fennec line, he would have fed you to his menagerie. And then, of course, he says, please speak freely.
That's very similar to a line from The Godfather after he kills somebody. He basically says, no, not The Godfather. I'm sorry. Kill Bill. When the Japanese heiress kills one of her naysayers in court, essentially. She's holding court in the bar, and one guy says, I don't think we can do it. She cuts his head off and then says, no, I've always encouraged you to have an open, honest dialogue and question my, so it could be tongue in cheek like that. Everybody's Boba Fett saw he's gone soft. I've been hearing all that chatter. And said, no, I think that's the gauntlet.
Classic scene.
Please speak freely.
Yeah, tell me exactly what.
I dare you.
The whole sequence though speaks to what we were talking about before about, did anybody really believe that Bib Fortuna had any clout whatsoever?
Right.
I think he's riding somebody else's.
Of course not.
Right.
So I mean, I think some of the more interesting questions around this sequence is, what did Boba Fett do to get these 3 disparate groups to come to the table together? How did he get them there? Was it just a simple case of, by the way, I'm back?
Well, and then there's a few lines. There's a couple pieces of dialogue resumes.
Yeah.
We were all former captains under Jabba, so they've gone to whatever disorganization, scrounging, trying to make a living. However, former captains under Jabba's got these connotations to it, and he's saying, you could have that again. And I think that's sort of the angle is that these guys, they've been just mercenaries or petty criminals.
You talk about the
corporation will make us all rich.
I was going to say,
does he say corporation or cooperation?
I think he says corporation.
Yeah, enterprise. Enterprise.
We all come together as one.
Wouldn't be surprised if this trailer scenes were all from the first episode of the show.
Oh, agreed.
I'm 100% on board with that. It's definitely, maybe the couple of the little extra little bits in there, like the flyby, might be from something else. But
the finale.
I am right in there with you on that one, that it is probably from the very first episode. Again, though, talking about getting these people together, as you say, there's the power vacuum in the wake of Jabba's death, and so presumably these 3 groups at the dinner party, and we can't really see them all in this one, but
just reaching back again, though, there's your 2 Gamorreans.
Yeah, two more Gamorreans. Are they the same Gamorreans? Hard to tell. Yes.
Yeah, it kind of gave me that impression, though. Like,
that he took them with him.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm interested to know how that works out,
Yeah,
if they're
name
his
an
guys or
entourage.
not.
This
It would
this
be
meeting
cool.
feels like Jabba's ground, like Jabba's palace. This feels like Boba Fett's home turf, where the
So if you,
street
gonna
fight
say
felt
it
like he was on
absolutely
enemy
is there.
territory. Yeah,
I'm gonna go a step further on this one, Hank, and I'm gonna say that this is the throne room.
Yeah.
Now, this table, like, look in the background there, that's the wall that Han Solo was hanging on. That's
Yeah.
what I think that is. That this is right in front of the throne.
Because that's the power seat. He's facing the stairwell.
There,
Yeah.
there's another seat. Where is it here? Do I have it here?
I think we got
There you
it
go.
is.
So in
there's the
in
stair.
this shot, you can see the staircase.
It's like they
So
brought a
that
table up to the throne. Yeah.
Or
it's
is
like
this,
on top of the iron grate.
Yeah, is this
Oh my.
Jabba's old throne
Oscar.
just slid out into the middle of the room?
It's sitting on top of the iron
Rancor
grate.
grate.
Yeah, that's funny.
Oh my
If you
God,
don't
the
join
whole
me,
table.
yeah.
Oh, wouldn't that
If
be
you
a
don't
scene?
join with me, I'll just drop the table right in.
Wouldn't that be
Yep.
a scene?
Oh my God.
Breaking out. Oh.
Yeah. We've got some players here at the table. We've got Boba, who's holding court at the front, along with his major domo, Fennec Shand.
Right at his right hand.
We've got a group of on the left, or our left hand side, we've got a group of Trandoshans.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got a group of Klaatuinians at the end,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a pair of Aqualish off to the other side, sitting on the same side as
And
Fennec.
a third one in the background, I think. Yeah.
I don't know if that's another Aqualish
just-
back there or what that
I think
is,
so.
but there's definitely somebody back. Everybody has brought their own muscle, as it
Right.
were.
Yeah.
A couple representatives.
So this is a cool scene. Obviously, they've taken in a meal, and this is where that line comes in over top. You all used to be captains, for Jabba, and I think it's the Klaatuinian at the very end who's
Yes.
like, "What's to stop us from killing you?" I think he's the one who's actually delivering that line.
Yeah.
So if anybody's going to get their head chopped off like that Kill Bill scene, it's him.
That's right.
So let's take a moment just to talk about this scene just for a second here, because this one hasn't really been, there's not a whole lot of internet buzz on this one, and maybe
there
should be.
There
Yeah.
should
In my
be.
opinion, there should be.
There should be.
Let's look at this
Shit.
group of Trandoshans here for a second. Yeah, group of Trandoshans here for a second. The one who's staring directly at the camera, does that not look like a female to you?
Yep. And
Yeah.
It's got a strikingly similar fashion sense.
I was going to say there's a striking fashion sense to a lady Trandoshan who we've already met. Do you think this could be the live action translation of Sid?
Maybe.
Without a doubt.
Because she's still got underworld connections. She's
Without
a doubt.
the hub
That is a
needs the,
red shirt with a green vest, and she's wearing a red shirt with a green vest. Without a doubt in my mind.
The pearls from the animation model and then the necklace from the live action, it's not so disparate as to that this couldn't be a live action translation.
I mean, I hope she's still kicking around after the Empire, man. What a great character.
And I super hope it's she's still voiced by Rhea Perlman.
Oh yeah. Wouldn't that be
live action version could be a smaller.
Well, this is
it
what I
could
mean.
be Rhea
right?
Perlman in makeup. Wouldn't that be just
Yes.
the dopest?
That would be
dopest.
awesome.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Which says a lot for Sid, that she's able to not only maintain her holdings on oh my lord, the name of the planet. Anyway,
right.
she's been able to expand. Detail wise though,
Ord Mantell.
for me, Ord Mantell, thank you very much. It's the eyes, in and around the eyes. I mean,
Yes.
the bags underneath the eyes and how they kind of lay over the cheekbones, and then looking at that live action piece, man, I'd be surprised if it's not.
Me too.
Depending on how long she actually runs with the Bad Batch, she could slim down.
Well, this is just it, though, right? I mean,
Yeah.
who's to say that she hasn't? I mean, you get older. I mean, I've known. I know we have this way of anthropomorphizing everything, but I've seen people, in their later years trim out considerably as they get to that sort of next stage of their life. Who's to say that it's not her?
Yeah.
But that brings into question some other things that I want to talk about for a second as we go a little sideways here, because we're getting this show in 2021, and the Bad Batch is not coming back until next year. We did our deep dive on the Bad Batch in our Fan Batch series. If you guys haven't checked that out, go back and watch our review series on the Fan Batch, where we deep dive on every episode of the show, and we speculate the crap out of that as well, as we do that beat by beat, as we will be doing in December when Book of Boba Fett launches. But we were banking heavily that there was going to be a meeting that brother and sister were going to meet face to face, and
They
that
leaned heavily into the Alpha and the Omega, so
they hit it right on the head. I mean, Tech had even said there was one other unaltered clone, and it was designated Alpha. Well, we know that Django asked for an unaltered clone, and we know that that's Boba.
Yep.
You can't tell me that by this point in the Star Wars timeline that Boba has not discovered that he has a genetic sibling.
Right.
Are we going to do you think the show will explore that avenue, or do you think they're going to try like I can't see, how do you have a whole show? I mean, it's easy enough, you just don't explore it, but I mean, are you going to go a whole season of a live action TV show that's Boba Fett centric and not even make a name drop or a casual reference to? Do you think they're going to hold on to that for season 2 of the Bad Batch?
I think it's
Or
all the
maybe
same.
season 2 of Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, I mean, it's all the same writers.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the story group is really, really solid now. Whatever the plan is, I think it's going to rear its head. I don't think they just threw that out there to, for no good reason. And
Right.
This is the perfect format for it, but it might be too early. It depends what they want to do with the character. Like, it might be, certainly. The three of us want to watch Boba Fett kick the crap out of people in this show and be a badass, but
we do.
Maybe we want to see how he got that way, and in that cartoon format like that, so that kids can grow up with that too. So
that's true.
It could go both ways. That absolutely could go both ways.
And at the same time, right, Omega is going more like the hero path, whereas clearly Boba is going down that crime lord path.
They could butt heads. This could not be a family reunion. That's
Zadrakis, Omega is going to go after her father's armor. So I'm not going to propose that, or I'm not going to assume that I know what you're talking about, but I know from our own sort of discussions, the father figure for Omega, I think we all agree, has been Hunter.
Yes, but a technical clone father would be Django.
Yeah,
well,
but
her father's armor is Boba's armor then, because that's what Boba's wearing.
Yeah.
So
Which would give her cause to go after it.
We've certainly never gotten a sort of cut and dry. Was the helmet destroyed from
the bomb, the helmet bomb,
right? Because we assumed for the longest time that he was always wearing Django's helmet. He picks it up in Attack of the Clones. Attack, and then he touches heads with it. I always assumed, after having seen that for 10 years, that he wore Django's helmet, repainted it. It was only after the Clone Wars cartoon where I went, well, that's not the case.
So just follow up to the comment from Zadrakis is I pulled this shot because I knew we were going to talk about her, but there's a nice piece of fan art here that has a nice interpretation of Omega. This is Omega a little bit older now, and she's definitely wearing clone style armor. I mean, the idea that maybe she does adopt a Bad Batch, a Batcha persona.
Right.
She likes to call them, right?
Would not be shocking at all, considering what she's aiming for. I mean, her little clone trooper doll, and as
much of a soft spot as I have for clones, and I love the clones. I love them immensely. I love that we've seen a few of them grow into old men. They all can't make it to the end. They just, we can't have them all just turn up in live action. As much as I would love that to happen,
right?
I don't think that
their lifespan has been reduced.
Yeah, you've seen that fan art. Okay, good to know. There was a few pieces of fan art out there when I was looking to populate the show here that I was going to use. There's a funny one of somebody has photoshopped Daniel Logan.
Oh man,
as a blonde girl, and it's actually
really good.
It's very good. Yeah, I should have kept it, but I didn't. All right, so Have we talked about Omega enough? Can we move on?
I think
Yeah,
so.
man.
I think we need to dive back into the
Okay.
dinner
That's
party.
the end of
the
Omega.
dinner party. Yeah. The
For now.
the dinner party kind of, I think ends with this is the Klatooinian. Klatooinians, by the way, we saw tons of Klatooinians back in Return of the Jedi. They were the majority of the skiff guards
Mhm.
when they were trying to feed the heroes of the rebellion to the Sarlacc.
Also, the Raiders in the Mandalorian
In
season
Mandalorian
one.
season 2,
Or
yeah,
two, sorry.
yeah, season 2, yep.
Yeah.
All right. So we don't really get sort of the resolution to the dinner party. We don't know how that ends. We don't know if there's going to be a reformation of the his empire or not. We're kind of left with a closeout shot of Boba and Fennec up on the balcony of what I thought was the top of the monastery, that I thought was some kind of, as I said before, I think it's a bedroom. I think that's actually the same room that we see him
With the tank.
The tank as well. I think that is the same room. But then the camera pulls back, and Andy, you had brought this up the other day.
That's the tower behind it.
That's not the main monastery. That, in fact, that's the tower from behind.
Yep.
Sure is.
And I have to agree with that. So again, getting to visit these other places, or these places, in new ways that we've never seen before, I'm down for that. I mean, I want a full schematic.
Mhm.
Oh, big time. Big time.
Well, because you
Yeah,
figure
yeah.
you were wondering what's underneath it. Clearly, there's
Absolutely.
tunnels underneath it
Oh,
going
totally.
to the tower.
I am
And
totally
there's more than
interested to
one
know.
tower if you look at some of those establishing shots in the
Caleb Richardson, I will
Yeah.
say, I do hope Omega appears in live action eventually, just to see who they cast.
Mhm.
Me too, sir.
I
Me
can't see them
too.
putting a wig on Tamira Morrison.
Yeah.
No.
and
And I don't think we can.
I don't know if they
I
would
don't think we
cast
can
a
de-age.
right,
Can't de-age Daniel Logan down to 10.
right.
So really, that kind of brings us to the end. I think we've cherry picked out, I think, all of the major sequences, the set pieces, and the three or four main sequences. If you include the street fight as being part of the ambush.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like
Spilling
three.
out afterwards.
One of them is just
Yeah,
Tusken
yeah, yeah.
Raiders.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, guys, it's coming real soon. It's the Book of Boba Fett, and it's going to be airing on December 29th. And of course, as Disney has moved away from their Friday new releases, so that's not to conflict with Netflix. I believe that is a Wednesday, as all the new shows have been coming out on Wednesdays.
One little thing I wanted to talk about real quick, was
Yeah, let's do it.
The Lucasfilm logo in the trailer is
Yeah.
that modded green, military green of Boba Fett's armor.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it also looks like it's covered in blood. Did you guys notice that?
Mm.
I did not.
Yeah, I know. I've heard some it's rust chatter on, but to me it looks like blood. If you later on, everybody go take a look at that image, pause it, because the actual logo on the poster and the logo on Disney Plus is the modded military green, but without that blood color. Check it out.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, because the one voiceover from him, he's not going to lead by fear. He's going to lead by respect.
Yeah, that's what
Right.
he does say that.
And
Yeah.
if he doesn't get his respect, he's going to beat it out of you.
Well,
I just, again, you can't help but watch this and make the analogy to The Sopranos, The Godfather, and other crime
Right,
underworld films that we've seen before. And
Even throwing it back to a WWF reference for The Undertaker, it's loved by few,
yeah.
feared by many, and respected by all.
right,
Mhm.
right. That's the that's the age old. Is it better to be respected or feared?
Feared,
And right, and so fantastic. Can't wait.
I guess as the really, that's it really for the trailer. I mean, it's a whopping 1 minute and 58 seconds, and I don't know how long we've been going for here now, but we've been at it for an hour and 20 minutes. I think we've covered things pretty good.
This is only the first trailer.
That's right. So
Chances are we'll get one more before it drops.
well, that's it. I got one more comment here from Zadrakis. Gotta go enjoy the live stream. I'll catch the rest via the podcast. I hope you guys tackle the special look on Disney Plus on November 12th. And I do want to just bring that up and say, Andy, you and I covered the DC Fandom this year.
Yep.
We covered it a little bit later, but Disney Plus Day is coming up here November 12th. That's next week.
Yep.
And we will be taking a look at Disney Plus Day for all, not just the Star Wars news, but all the Marvel news as well, and anything else that catches our eye. And we will definitely do a discussion on that one.
Yep.
Guys, did you see the Boba Fett trailer? Have you watched it as many times as we have? What did you guys see in there that we missed that you think we should have covered? Because I'll go back and watch it a 45th time. That's,
I can't stop watching it. I can't stop watching it.
Yeah,
right now.
I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I hope you'll stay with us. I hope you guys enjoy the fact that we're doing a little bit more live streaming. That's new for us. I mean, we pay for a streaming service. We might as well use it that way. Glad to have you guys along tonight. Those of you who have watched, I hope you'll join with us later. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel over on YouTube. That's Sawcast Productions on YouTube, of course. If you're on Facebook, like our the Fandom Power on Facebook, both our fan page and our what do you call that? Oh yes, it's our group. Our fan group, which is actually the fan group is a space for you guys where you guys can get together and share your ideas about all the stuff that we cover
and more.
Yeah.
And more.
Hey, go there, because it doesn't mean you have to be a fan of us. You just have to be a fan of stuff. Because we who are fans of things like to talk to you who are fans of other things. Exactly.
So that's it. Yeah. All right. There's lots more coming from us at Fandom Power. And until next time, guys, my name is Wes.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Hank.
All right, guys. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.